Emily and Daniel had just tied the knot. Their love was like a freshly bloomed rose, fragrant and radiant, promising a lifetime of happiness. The newlyweds decided to start their life together in a quaint, picturesque town that seemed untouched by time. Their new home, an old Victorian house, stood as a sentinel at the end of a tree-lined street. It was a charming relic of the past, complete with a white picket fence and ivy-covered walls. As they settled into their new life, Emily and Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the house. It was as if the walls held secrets and the shadows whispered in hushed tones. The locals, however, were tight-lipped about the history of the house. One chilly autumn evening, as the couple curled up by the fireplace, Emily heard faint giggles, like the laughter of children at play. She turned to Daniel, her eyes wide with astonishment. "Did you hear that?" Daniel frowned, glancing around the room. "Hear what, love?" "Children laughing just now," Emily said, her voice trembling. Daniel shook his head, attributing it to their imagination running wild in the eerie old house. But Emily was sure of what she'd heard. She was a kindergarten teacher after all, and she knew the sound of children's laughter well. Over the next few weeks, the laughter grew louder and more frequent, always at the oddest hours. Late at night, Emily would wake up to find Daniel asleep beside her, oblivious to the children's mirth echoing through the house. Emily's curiosity turned to fear, and she couldn't ignore the sense of foreboding that clung to every corner of their home. One evening, as Emily sat in the dimly lit living room, she heard the laughter again. Determined to unravel the mystery, she followed the sound through the dark hallways, which seemed to twist and turn without reason. The laughter led her to the basement door. She hesitated, her hand trembling as she turned the rusty knob. The basement was dark, with only a single feeble light bulb swaying from the ceiling. Emily descended the creaking wooden stairs, her heart pounding like a drum. As she reached the bottom, the laughter ceased, replaced by an eerie silence. Her flashlight flickered to life, casting long, dancing shadows on the cold stone walls. She gasped when she saw them. A group of ghostly children standing in the corner, their eyes hollow and lifeless, their clothes tattered and ancient. They stared at her with silent, mournful expressions. Emily's voice quivered as she asked, "Who are you?" The children's lips moved, but no sound came out. Their ethereal forms seemed to flicker like candle flames. One of the children pointed to a dusty old photo album on a nearby table. Emily approached it cautiously and opened the album. The pages revealed sepia-toned photographs of children who looked just like the ones before her. "These are your pictures?" Emily whispered, her voice trembling. The children nodded slowly, their eyes filled with sadness. Suddenly, a chilling wind swept through the basement, extinguishing the flashlight. Emily stood in darkness, surrounded by the ghostly children. She felt a cold hand on her shoulder and turned to see a young girl with long, matted hair and bloodshot eyes. She pointed to a faded picture on the wall. The photograph depicted a family, a mother, father, and their children, all smiling happily. Emily recognized the house they stood in front of. It was her own. The caption below the photo read, "The Andersons, 1923. With a shudder, Emily realized the truth. The children before her were the Andersons, the former occupants of the house. Trapped in a limbo between life and death, they longed for something they had lost. As Emily pieced together their story, the children's whispers filled the basement. In 1923, the Andersons had lived a peaceful life in the same house, but a tragic fire had claimed the lives of the children. Their souls remained bound to the place they once called home, unable to find rest. Moved by their plight, Emily vowed to help them. She and Daniel spent countless hours researching how to free the spirits. They gathered old photographs, letters, and mementos from the town's historical archives, hoping to piece together the family's lost history. The children guided them, whispering in their dreams, leading them to hidden clues. Slowly, the story of the Andersons came to life. Emily and Daniel uncovered a long-lost diary that revealed the children's names and their love for a hidden garden buried beneath the overgrown backyard. With each discovery, the children grew stronger, and their laughter turned from haunting to joyful. One fateful night, Emily and Daniel stood before the garden, tears in their eyes, as they unearthed a rusted key. Together they opened the garden's gate, and an otherworldly light spilled forth. The children stepped into the garden, their ghostly forms slowly transforming into solid, radiant beings. After the Anderson children had found their peace, and the garden had bloomed with newfound life, Emily and Daniel believed they had finally conquered the darkness that had haunted their Victorian home. However, they were unaware of the malevolent energy that lurked beneath the newfound beauty in the garden. As days turned into weeks, a darkness began to seep into the once vibrant garden. Flowers withered, trees twisted, and the air grew heavy with a sense of foreboding. Unbeknownst to the newlyweds, the negative energy that had tormented the Anderson children was far from vanquished. It had merely retreated, growing stronger in the shadows. One evening, Emily and Daniel decided to take a moonlit stroll through the garden, hand in hand, relishing the peaceful atmosphere that had settled over their home. As they entered the garden, a sudden chill filled the air. The once fragrant blooms now emitted a putrid odor, and the leaves rustled ominously in the wind. The couple ventured further into the garden, oblivious to the growing malevolence around them. A deep guttural growl echoed from the darkness. They turned to see the gnarled branches of a once majestic oak tree contort and writhe like serpents. The garden itself seemed to come alive, pulsating with a sinister energy. Fear gripped Emily and Daniel's hearts as they tried to retreat, but the garden had other plans. Vines erupted from the ground, ensnaring their ankles, pulling them deeper into the twisted nightmare. Emily's screams filled the air as they were dragged toward a dark, gaping maw in the earth. Desperation coursed through their veins as they struggled to free themselves from the garden's grasp. The malevolent entity that dwelled within it had awoken, hungry for their souls. It bore no face or form, but its presence was palpable, a suffocating darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. Back in the house, the walls seemed to pulse with a sinister energy. Portraits of the Anderson family contorted into grotesque caricatures, their eyes gleaming with malice. The furniture shifted and creaked, as if possessed by a malevolent force. The once peaceful home had become a nightmarish labyrinth of shadows and terror. As Emily and Daniel continued to fight for their lives in the garden, the entity grew more furious. It was no longer content to remain hidden in the shadows. It lashed out, shattering windows and slamming doors, a storm of chaos that reverberated through the house. The ghostly laughter of the Anderson children had turned to mournful wails, trapped once again by the entity's growing power. Emily and Daniel's love, which had been a beacon of hope, now fueled the darkness, drawing it closer like moths to a flame. In the garden, Emily and Daniel were on the brink of despair. The entity's grip tightened, threatening to consume their souls. But then, in their darkest moment, they heard a whisper, faint but full of determination, the voice of one of the Anderson children. "Find the heart of the garden," it urged, and with renewed strength, Emily and Daniel pushed against the suffocating darkness. With every ounce of their willpower, they reached into the earth, searching for the garden's core. In the house, the entity's rage intensified. It hurled objects through the air, splintered furniture and shattered glass. The once beautiful Victorian home now resembled a war zone. The Anderson children's cries grew louder, a chorus of anguish. As Emily and Daniel's hands dug deeper into the earth, they felt a pulsating, malignant presence. It writhed like a serpent, trying to evade their grasp, but they clung to it, determined to free their home from its grip. With a final desperate tug, they unearthed a gnarled, blackened root that pulsed with malevolence. It shrieked in agony as they wrenched it free from the earth. In that moment, the entity's power waned, and the garden's darkness began to recede. In the house, the chaos subsided. The Anderson children's cries transformed into joyous laughter once more. The portraits on the walls returned to their serene expressions, and the furniture settled back into place. Emily and Daniel emerged from the garden, the corrupted root held tightly in their hands. As they stared at the twisted, malevolent mass, they knew they had to destroy it to ensure their safety and that of their home. They took the root to the fireplace and set it ablaze. As the flames consumed it, the entity's anguished screams echoed through the room. Emily and Daniel watched as the darkness was consumed by fire, vanishing into smoke and ash. With the destruction of the malevolent entity, the garden returned to its former beauty, and their home once again became a sanctuary of love and peace. The Anderson children's spirits were finally set free, their laughter a gentle breeze that whispered through the Victorian house. Emily and Daniel held each other close, their love having triumphed over the darkness that had threatened them.
Subscribe and tune in for more frightening stories on portals of terror.